2 hours later, I got a phone call, and the nurse said, the doctor wants to see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So I drive 2.5 hours back to Atlanta, and doctor walked in and he said the three words that you never want to hear. You have cancer. And he said, we got to hit it heavy. You've allowed it to be stage 3. It's going into stage 4. And you're going to be in the hospital 7 days, 7 nights. You're off for 2 weeks in the hospital, 7 days, 7 nights. And then you're going to have 12 outpatient. And we're going to start radiation immediately. And so that'll be Sunday. And I remember saying, which Sunday? And he said, no, this Sunday in 3 days. And I said, well, I can't do that. I said, I just moved to Tennessee. I've got my district. I'm busy. What's plan B? And he said, you die. And I said, okay, let's go back to plan A here.
Welcome to Linda's Corner. My name is Linda Bjork, and today I am delighted to welcome Mike Coy. Mike is a past president of the Austin Westlake Chamber of Commerce, the senior benefits consultant with AFLAC, a champion baseball player and coach. He is also a best-selling author and keynote speaker. You can reach Mike at his website, and I'll include a link in the show notes. Welcome, Mike. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
Thank you, Linda. Like I said before, it's just an honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. And I really appreciate having different conversations with people and bringing their wisdom and bringing their insight together. And you have so much to offer. And one of the quotes you have that I'm super excited to talk about is, losers only find excuses for why they fail. Winners find a way to win. Only I think I reversed that. And you know an awful lot about winning with your baseball experience, for example. And I see if I can get these numbers right. You had 3 Texas state championships, 1 national championship, and then 5 world championships. Is that correct?
Yeah. The world championships I was the coach of the 16-year-old USA baseball team that we went down under. We went to Australia every Christmas, and we won it 5 years in a row. And just having the opportunity to be around actually the best 16-year-old baseball players in the United States sure made me a good coach.
And that's wonderful that you're able to share that and say, you know what, this was not just me. Obviously, this was a team effort. And with your experience with sports, you know that it takes discipline and it takes having a goal. And you took some of these skills that you have, and then you put it to another test. And that was one of the most challenging experiences of your life, battling cancer. So do you want to talk to us about that experience?
Sure. I've never been sick a day in my life. Now, I've got 4 knee surgeries and I blew my Achilles out, but that was all sports related. To have an ongoing sore throat for several months, because I'm a guy, and so a guy doesn't go get checked. All right, men don't get checked, and I talk about that in the book I Chose Live, is that stress is the silent killer, and men don't get checked. Our death rate is 58% higher than women because, well, we know you're smarter than us, but you women usually do a very good job of going and getting a physical every year and stuff like that. Well, men don't. The 2 biggest cancers for men is colon cancer and prostate cancer, and there's no easy cancer, but if you catch those early enough, they can be a simple cancer. And so I was having this continuous sore throat, and I had just moved to Georgia. I'd taken this huge promotion, this position with AFLAC to be the director of recruiting and training for the state of Georgia. And I had just gone through a pretty devastating divorce, and I just decided I'm packing up and moving to Atlanta, Georgia to take this position. And I was there about 6 months, and I just kept having this continuous sore throat. So I decided finally to go to the doctor, and it was the primary care doctor. And she said, well, I think it's just a sinus infection. You've got a drainage. I'll give you some antibiotics and you'll be fine in a few weeks. Now, you have to understand, I had a tumor the size of your fist at the base of my tongue. And I was told that I had a sinus infection. And so about 6 weeks later, I went back and I said, I still have this sore throat. And she said, well, we're going to up the antibiotics. We're going to really give you some powerful antibiotics. And all the antibiotics did was destroy my immune system. And when you add stress to any situation, it just kind of, in my case, the cancer just grabbed itself. I had a HPV basal tumor at the base of my tongue that if I would have waited 2-3 more months, it would have come over my windpipe, and you and I would not be having this conversation today. But on July 4th weekend of 2013, I went into the bathroom and a lymph node had popped out like a golf ball. And I said, well, that's not good. So I took a picture of it and I sent it to one of my best friends in Austin, who was an ear, nose, and throat doctor. I coached his son. We were very, very close friends. And he knew immediately that something was wrong. And he said, you got to quit screwing around with the primaries and see a specialist. So I forced my way in to an appointment because I had to get this referral. I went and saw the specialist 2 days later and walks in, says, that's not good. So they did 5 needle biopsies. Now, I don't know if anybody out there has ever had a needle biopsy. It ain't a lot of fun. And he said, look, I'm not worried about this. You're fine. You're physically in great shape. We'll get back with you in a couple of weeks. Perfect. Now, I had recently moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'd taken a district for Aflac in around the far western part of Georgia, but I moved to Tennessee because it didn't have an income tax, a state income tax. So I moved to this. I got a condo. And I was only 15 minutes from my office in Ringgold, Georgia, where Dolly Parton got married. But anyway, I went back to Tennessee, and about 2 hours later, I got a phone call, and the nurse said, "The doctor wants to see you tomorrow at 2:00." So I drive 2.5 hours back to Atlanta, and doctor walked in, and he said the 3 words that you never want to hear. You have cancer. And so, it's one of those things that, okay. And he said, we got to hit it heavy. You've allowed it to be stage 3. It's going into stage 4. And you're going to be in the hospital 7 days, 7 nights. You're off for 2 weeks in the hospital, 7 days, 7 nights. And then you're going to have 12 outpatient. And we're going to start radiation immediately. And so that'll be Sunday. And I remember saying, which Sunday? And he said, no, this Sunday in 3 days. And I said, well, I can't do that. I said, I just moved to Tennessee. I've got my district. I'm busy. What's plan B? And he said, you die. And I said, okay, let's go back to plan A here. But, again, for somebody that, like I said, have never been sick a day in his life, it's one of those. When he came in and he said, you have cancer, I'm not real sure I heard anything else that he said. It's one of those things that this is not so much a life or death situation as much as it is, we don't know if we can save your vocal cords and not remove your tongue. And so somebody that makes a living talking, that was a stark realization that, you know what? This is real, and let's take care of it, and let's make this happen. And so as I started the chemo and I was going through the process, I guess I was into it about 3 or 4 weeks. And I went out on the balcony, and if anybody's ever gone through the chemo and the radiation or anything else, you realize You have some good days, and then you have some days that are tough. And I happened to be out on the balcony, a beautiful summer day in Chattanooga, and I'm looking at the Chattanooga River, and I felt something on my arm. I looked down, and this big clump of hair had dropped on my arm.
Mhm.
And I just saw the wind was blowing in my hair, and I just took my hands and just started shaking out my head and lost all of my hair. So when people ask me now, they say, "Well, how's your journey with cancer?" I said, "Hey, I got my hair back. I didn't care about the tumor anymore. I just wanted my hair back." But I went inside, and I remember sitting down watching TV, flipping through the channels, and a movie came on. A movie was on called Shawshank Redemption. I don't know if you remember that movie, but it was about. It's really what, gosh, it's 25 years old now. But it was kind of launched Tim Robbins' career, where he was falsely accused of killing his wife, and he was sent to Shawshank Prison. And the first several weeks in prison, he was beaten, he was abused, he was raped. I mean, it was horrible. And he was out in the yard one day, and the other actor, Morgan Freeman, played this character Red, that had been in prison in Shawshank for like 40 years, almost his whole adult life. And Tim Robbins said, I don't I don't know how you can stand this place. You've been here 40 years. He goes, "This is a living hell. This place is horrible. How can you do it? How have you been able to stay in Shawshank for 40 years?" And Morgan Freeman looked at him and he said, "Well, life is about choices. You either get busy living or you get busy dying." And Linda, I promise you, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I turned off the TV. I went to my desk, and that's when I wrote I Chose Live, about my battle with cancer and how I'm winning the war.
All about choices. And and it's fascinating that the choice was two prisoners talking, because it's a choice that gets you into prison or a mistake. But
Yep.
those kinds of things are really hard. As I'm listening to your story, I'm hearing all of these stressors that you had, one stacked on top of another. A divorce, which is very painful, and then you had a move and a new job, and then it sounds like you had another move and another change in job. So there's a
Yep.
whole lot of things going on. And then in addition to that, you get the three words that no one ever wants to hear. You have cancer, which is a huge stressor. And so, with thinking of that in mind, I can understand that the natural response is, "You don't understand. I'm busy. I have a lot on my plate right now,
That's
and
exactly
I
what I
do
said.
not
Yeah.
have time for cancer. So, can you please go back and give me a better answer?" And I love, what's plan B? Plan B is you die. And then it's, oh, rethink. I chose live. And that might mean restructuring everything else that's going on. Let's take care of the emergency at hand, take a step back from everything else, and then we'll be able to work through those, but not yet. Right here, right now, there's one problem that is number one, and that's the one I need to focus on. And you did it, and it worked.
Well, yeah, and in my book, with I Chose Live, I had the foreword written by Ron Sanders, one of my closest friends that happened to be my boss at Aflac, and he said, "Mike, you got to get well. We'll worry about your district. We'll worry about doing things that need to be done, but you got to get well." And and I think it's another point that's important too, Linda, that you have choices that you have to make. But I've had many people ask me, "Did you ever think about giving up?" I mean, I ended up losing over 70 pounds. I mean, I went down below 160 pounds when I was about 240, 250. I needed to lose some weight, but not 70 pounds. But people asked me, said, "Do you ever think about giving up?" And I said, "Never." Number one, I have a 6-month-old grandson that doesn't know me, and I have not walked my daughter down the aisle. And now I've got three grandsons that probably wish they didn't know me. And I did walk my daughter down the aisle, and she's blessed me with a granddaughter. And so I think a lot of times when things are tough, there again, losers find excuses, but winners find the solution, find the way to you focus, you move forward, and here's the thing about it is my wife is a scheduler for Austin Oncology. She's the one that set up chemo and radiation for people, and that's how actually we met years ago. But she tells me, she goes, I don't think you understand. That's a pretty tough cancer that you had. But I remember my oncologist telling me, he said, number one, you're an athlete. Number two, you're in unbelievable shape. He goes, you're just going to breeze through this. And I just realized that if that's breezing through it, then I don't want to see what other people are having to go through and what they're having to do. And that's the main thing I'm trying to do when I do my speaking gigs and I promote my books and stuff, is that that you do have a choice. Is that when you go out there, it's and in fact, whenever I do a speech or I give a talk, especially about my battle with cancer, I end every speech with that life is about choices. And I hope and pray that you choose you make the same choice I made, that you choose the same path that I took. And that is, I chose live. And that's something that, when I talk to audiences, I tell the ladies, please get your man to the doctor. Okay. I mean, whether it's a husband, a father, a brother, an uncle, I said, because we won't go to the doctor. And when we finally do go to the doctor, it's normally stage 4 and we've got 6 months to live. I mean, think about Toby Keith. Toby Keith, again, that stomach cancer, he thought it was heartburn. He thought it was digestive problems. Well, it was. But then when you finally go to the doctor and you have a tumor the size of a grapefruit in your stomach, that's going to be tough to overcome. And you've got this great big tough cowboy that couldn't overcome it. But it breaks my heart because I'm just wondering, what if you'd have gone 6 months sooner? What if you'd have gone when you started having some of these problems? And I don't know. Again, I don't know all the story, but I mean, one of my main messages is that you've got to handle the stress, and please go get checked. And my kids will tell you my life is clearly defined as AC and BC. Is it after cancer or is it before cancer? Because I was telling, I did an enrollment yesterday at my dentist office, and I told one of the hygienists that, she goes, what do you see as some of the major changes you've made? And I said, well, I get cut off in traffic. And 10 years ago, I'd have chased the guy down, and we'd have had road rage. There had been a lot of fingers being shot and a lot of things happening. Now I just go, wow, that guy must be in a hurry. I mean, it's just how you handle life and how you handle things. And I'm just blessed to be in a position of being a 10-year cancer survivor and being able to tell my story. And you are so gracious to allow me to tell my story.
Well, I'm so grateful that you're here and you're able to share that wisdom. And as we're talking about choices, I think it's important to kind of clarify that we don't get to choose what happens to us, but we do get to choose our response. You did not choose cancer. You did not say, oh, let me check the box and pick that one. But when it comes, then we have a choice. What are we going to do about it? Am I going to give up? Am I going to fight? Am I going to do what it takes? And I love that you brought that this choice even comes into our little day-to-day things. driving on the freeway. Someone cuts you off, someone merges. Now, I didn't choose that, but I can choose my response. I can get
Right.
all upset, or I can say, wow, they must have been in a hurry. So that thing, making that distinction is important. We still always have a choice, even when we don't choose what happens to us.
That's a great point. Yeah. I mean, I look at how I've tried to uh, focus on the fact that Tim Tebow, the ex NFL quarterback, he's such a great speaker. I've heard him speak a couple of times. And one of his messages is that this isn't about just any day, it's about today. Okay. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not promised to anybody. So today is where you want to make that impact. Today is where you want to do something, whether it's pay it forward or just take care of yourself, things that you want to do. Uh, one of the things that I've done with this on this book tour that I'm doing right now, and again, you're so gracious to have me on this show, is that I have two free gifts. It's MikeCoySpeaks.com/gift. MikeCoySpeaks.com/gift. And one of the free gifts is Mike's 10 tips to prevent cancer. And the other one is I actually included chapter 8 in the book because I think it's a very powerful chapter. But the more people that you educate, that you can motivate, the more people that understand the things that you might be able to do to help prevent cancer. That's something that's very, very important for me. When this was 1997. I was the voice of the Westlake Chaparrals. The Austin Westlake is where Drew Brees played football, where Nick Foles, the MVP, Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. My son was the 2000 Central Texas athlete, football, baseball at Westlake. And in 97, I was the voice. I did the radio for baseball, and we did SHAP TV. I did the Time Warner Cable football broadcast. And I went to get my dad. He was in assisted living. And I said, it was my son's first varsity baseball game when he was a sophomore at Austin Westlake. And the nurses told me Dad wouldn't get dressed. And I went in and he said, I don't feel good. I don't feel like it. I'll catch the next game. And I said, well, you understand, I got to go. I got to go set up for the radio broadcast. I've got to go. He said, you go. And he said, I'll catch the next game. And as I was walking out of that hospital room or that living quarters that he was in, he said, son, make a difference. I said, okay. And I think my dad was thinking about with my coaching and all the work I've done with young men and with the kids that I was coaching. About 2 hours later, I was in the middle of the broadcast and my daughter drove up and at the time, my wife pointed to the press box. My daughter came up and said, the nursing home called and Gramps is gone. And, I just remember thinking, I think that he knew something was up and he didn't want to come to the game and pass away. And then, it would just destroy the whole game. And, but I just think about when he was saying that to me, those are the last words that he said to me. And I do believe he was talking about my coaching and stuff. But now I believe it's a much deeper meaning. And that's about reaching out, helping people when they, a lot of times, depression can be a terrible situation where you don't know where to turn, you don't know where to go. And anything that we can do to help address that, anything that we can help to do address stress, whatever we can do to address getting checked, getting things checked out early. uh, I'm just looking for that one person, and I know you feel the same way. One person that says, "Wow, thank you, you made a difference."
Yes, absolutely. And each individual person matters. And we would
Absolutely.
like to reach a lot more than one, but every one matters. Now, there's another quote that you use a lot that goes along really well with what you've been talking about. And that's a quote by Mark Twain. The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why.
Absolutely.
And you have found some whys, and the whys are to pay it forward, to make a difference, and to help somebody else. And I think that gives us purpose in our life. We're not just talking about our length of our life. We want some power and impact during that time.
No, I agree. I mean, especially when you start talking about the purpose. For me, my purpose was I'm going to get through this. And I just, again, I saw this interview with Toby Keith just a couple of weeks ago when he said, "Hey, whatever the cards are dealt, I'll play them. Whatever happens, happens." And he said, and if that means I'm gone, I'm gone. And it just kind of hit me now that he is gone that somewhere or another, you make that peace and you fight as hard as you can fight, and then when it's your time, it's your time. But I remember in a baseball game, I was playing men's senior baseball game in Austin, and the third baseman, who a friend of mine, good guy, good third baseman by the way, I'm standing on third, and he turned to me and he said, "Mike, I want you to know my wife made me read your book." And he said, and so I decided to go ahead and get a colonoscopy. And he was like 5 or 6 years past the date. He was like 55, 56 years old, and he was supposed to get it done at age 50. And he said, and they found three precancerous polyps. They removed them, but the doctor said if I would have waited another couple of years, I would have full blown colon cancer. And he said, "So I just want to thank you for saving my life." And I said, "Jimmy, I didn't save your life. You saved your life." And I said, "But man, that means a lot. And I really do appreciate it." And I think if that's the impact that we can have, it's just something important that, again, it's more than yourself. And I learned that coaching when I was very, very fortunate. For 40 years, I coached baseball, and I had one losing season. And the thing about it is that it was because I had come from a pro background, came into high school, and thinking these kids were a lot more advanced than they were. And that was that 8-12 season. The next year we were 10-10, but then the next year was the 18-2 season, and we lost in the semifinals. A kid from St. Joe's hit a solo home run in the bottom of the 10th inning to beat us 5-4, and then they won the state championship the next day. But the bottom line is that if you surround yourself with the right people and stay away from the negativism and try to be as optimistic as you can, instead of saying that's not going to work, let's go find the hammer and the drill and let's make it work. And so, it's my dad's favorite saying. He was a layman disciple of Christ minister. He was a old high school coach, football, baseball, and he said that God will make sure that every bird has a worm, but He's not going to place it in the nest for them. And I think that's part of what we have to do is that we got to find the worms, and we've got to help people help themselves. And that's what I hope I can do with with my books and my talks, and hopefully what my dad said is just make a difference.
And you obviously have, and you have at least one personal experience of someone coming back and saying thank you. And I'd like to talk about that for just a second, because one, your words made a difference. And they not only made a difference, but it's possible that it saved a life. Our words matter. Another thing is that when he thanked you, thank you, you saved me, you said, no, you saved you. Because
Right.
it's also important to recognize that we don't actually save anyone else. We invite people to do what they need to do, but we each have to go get our own worms, so to speak. We have to do something. We can't expect someone else who's awesome and say, well, Mike's got me. He'll take care of me. No. Mike might show me what to do. He might invite me, but I got to do it. And that makes a big difference. This has been delightful. Is there anything else you want to make sure we cover before we close today?
I just want people out there to understand that, that life is not necessarily that bowl of cherries because they have that pit in them, right? And but you can get through it. You've got to honor yourself. You've got to honor your faith. You've got to honor whatever motivates you to get up in the morning. And I tell people whenever I do, I have a speaking engagement, is that go in the mirror first thing in the morning and say, today is the first day of the rest of my life. I'm going to seize this day. I'm going to seize this opportunity and I'm going to make it mine. And I think if we can have that positive mindset, then it puts you in a completely different perspective on how you start your day and how you head out. And believe me, curveballs are going to be thrown, and you better adjust. You better think about hitting it the opposite way, and quit trying to pull it and quit trying to jerk it because you're going to strike out. Well, you know what? I think about that great American philosopher Rocky Balboa. And Rocky Balboa says it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. And that's my mindset for myself. And I hope for everybody out there that's listening.
Thank you, because we do get knocked down. So thank you for that reminder to get back up. I appreciate you visiting with me today.
It's my honor. Again, people can go to ichoselive.com and find out more about me than they want to know. But I would ask them to check out the free gifts. It's absolutely free. MikeCoySpeaks.com/gift. Mike's 10 tips on how to prevent cancer. And then I have chapter 8 of the book there that I hope can make an impact for them.
Thank you. And I'll make sure to include that link in the show notes. In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Stephen Covey. He said, "We are not a product of what has happened to us in our past. We have the power of choice." Today, I invite our listeners to embrace their power to choose. See you next time on Linda's Corner.
Thanks for listening. Please share and subscribe to help us reach new listeners. And if you'd like to heal your life from the inside out, there is a free video series at hopeforhealingfoundation.org. Just click on the Free Stuff tab. I also invite you to grab a copy of one of my books, like Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. See you next time on Linda's Corner.